Welcome to our 29th Wonderspace journey. My name is Steve Cole, and since September 2020, I have been asking the same 6 questions to people from around the world. The questions revolve around life and wonder, places of reset and stories of hopefulness. This week our orbit will take us from Algeria to Romania, and to experience these views with us, in this ultimate window seat, we welcome Marina Cantacuzino. Marina is an award-winning journalist who founded the Forgiveness Project that works around the world building a climate of tolerance, resilience, hope and empathy. The full-length interview with Marina can be found on the Wonderspace podcast, which you will find on our website and on most podcast platforms. But for this shortened video orbit, Marina answers 3 of our 6 questions and starts by giving us a glimpse into her life story so far.
Much of my life was spent as a freelance journalist, and then more latterly, the last 18 years, I've been the founder and for many years the director of a charity called the Forgiveness Project. But I put it all back to my childhood, actually, and I've often thought this. I grew up in a very happy family, but I had a terminally ill brother who I always knew was going to die and who I was very close with. And he did die at 17 and I was 21. And I think that experience actually really made me the person I am, and the person who felt sort of strangely comfortable around pain and difficulty and difference and otherness. And the very first article I ever wrote, and it was in the days pre-email, when you just sent things in the post to editors. I sent it to the Guardian women's editor, and it was an article about being the sibling of a terminally ill brother and how that impacted on me. And the article was published, and I was very surprised. And basically it gave me the confidence to think, oh, I could be a journalist. That's what did it, that article. And I then had many years as the main breadwinner, 3 children. I did some amazing work for Oxfam, Red Cross, all sorts of articles that were just so interested, very much human stories based on people overcoming difficulties, a lot around illness and conflict. And I think it was that. I also wrote a book called Till Break of Day about London Lighthouse, which was a centre for HIV and AIDS. So I did a lot of work around AIDS. All this, I think, led to me starting the Forgiveness Project, which I founded in 2004. It was really a response to the Iraq War in 2003. I felt quite incensed by that, this "if you're not with us, you're against us" attitude. I just didn't get it. And I wanted to find counter-narratives. I wanted to find stories where people had been hurt or traumatised or suffered atrocity but not sought revenge. And so as a very private project that I did with a friend who was a photographer, and we were doing this work as journalists at the time, working for Oxfam, Red Cross, etc., I said to him, why don't we just see what sort of stories we can find about forgiveness and reconciliation, and where people had demonstrated empathy and compassion as opposed to wanting revenge and retaliation. And he agreed. And so for a year we spent collecting the stories, and then we're lucky to meet Anita Roddick, who was sadly dead now, but was the founder of The Body Shop. And she saw the raw material of his photographs and my stories that I'd written up of all these people I'd met. And I should say there were victims and survivors and former perpetrators, people who'd transformed their aggression into a force for peace. And she was so moved, Anita Roddick was just so moved by these stories. She funded it as an exhibition, which became the F Word exhibition, which was launched in 2004. And I thought my life would go back to journalism. I had absolutely no idea that this subject of forgiveness, which we approached in a very real and sort of gritty way, there was no way was anyone saying you must forgive, and if you don't forgive, your life will be depleted in some way. It was really people's difficult, complicated experiences around just being determined to draw a line under the dogma of revenge. And people were overwhelmed rather the interest was overwhelming, and I founded the charity as a result. Called it the Forgiveness Project, because by then I knew that forgiveness was a difficult subject, that people were inspired or affronted by it in equal measure. But I also knew it was potentially transformative, and some of the people I met along the way from South Africa, from Northern Ireland, from America, from Europe, they were so inspiring, and their stories were so hopeful in a time of such despair, really, which hasn't changed. And I saw it as, stories that heal, rehumanize, and offer hope, as opposed to as an antidote to all the stories that we hear all the time, which are about division and antipathy and retaliation and insularity. So the Forgiveness Project, which is a charity, which is amazing that it still continues 18 years on. We work with real stories. Everything we do is around narrative. We work in prisons, we work in schools. I have developed a podcast called the F Word Podcast. We have exhibitions all around the world. We put on online events now, mainly, of course. And have really tried to comment about aspects of political and personal life where people are quick to judge, quick to retaliate, quick to seek revenge, quick to cut people off because they don't meet your expectations. We like to change the discourse around that and offer tools through stories, because we're not saying this is what you need to do, A, B, C, D, E, F. We're saying consider this, read this story, watch this story, think how this might relate to your life. And what seems to happen is that people are inspired to act and think differently as a result. So my story of hopefulness is a person, and her name is Minna Spallman. And actually, I wondered about choosing her because it's actually a tragic story of despair. But she gives me great hope. Many people won't know who she is. She came to prominence really last year when her two daughters were both murdered in an unprovoked and random attack in a park in Wembley. And she's only given 2 interviews, both to the BBC. She said very, very little about it. She's a former archdeacon. But both times she's been unbelievably composed and articulate, drawing attention to the fact that their deaths were not taken seriously by the police because of the colour of their skin, her daughter's skin and hers. And she said recently, she said, I think the notion that all lives matter is absolutely right, but it's not true. There was no urgency about looking for 2 black women who went missing. And she said very little, but everything she says really pierces my heart in a way that I want to, in a way that opens my heart. It's a response that I can't fully explain, and it could be something to do with this park. It's not too far from where I live, so there's an immediate connection. I have 2 daughters myself. And yes, of course, she's angry, but she has such dignity and such clarity, and she's not emotional. I find her utterly inspiring. As a mother, she's completely broken, but she's also an activist. And what gives her purpose, I think, is hoping some good will come out of this, and that if her daughters' lives can make a change as to how women like them are viewed, and black women in particular, that then it won't all be in vain. That is her kind of message as an activist. And I think she's extraordinary. And so Minna Spallman is my chosen woman. The insight I'd like to share, it's quite a personal insight, but I don't know, it might resonate with some people. It's around spirituality and faith. So I've been a Buddhist for 30 years. It's a form of Japanese Buddhism, Nichiren Buddhism, and it has a lay organisation called Soka Gakkai, and I've been a member for years. But during lockdown, I relinquished my membership. That is not to say, in my mind, I relinquished it. It's not to say that I'm not still a Buddhist and I still meditate and I still believe in the philosophy, but I don't consider myself a member of an organisation anymore, because this particular Buddhism is very goal-orientated. And it's very set and very certain about this is the way to enlightenment, this is the way to change your karma. If you do these certain things, then this will happen. Very prescriptive. And then I got this book by Richard Rohr called Falling Upward. And he talks very much about the first and second half of your life, about what might be a container for the first half isn't necessarily right for the second half. And it really kind of spoke to me. And I just realised that I wanted to break free and that I didn't know that everything I was told, this is how it is and this is how you will do that. I was just questioning everything, and I realised it wasn't working for me anymore to be contained in this organisation within this particular religion. Because I think spirituality is all about change and growth, and I felt very stuck and very fixed in the way of viewing the world. And I understand that the rhetoric of certainty is safe, because certain rules easy to follow if they promise a bright future, but when those rules don't work for you anymore. And I suddenly realised I was so much happier embracing uncertainty and about acknowledging that I don't have everything figured out, and that in a way was fueling my curiosity and fostering, I think, a more open mind. So I'm just really drawn to this idea of questioning as exploration and as a relief from certainty. And I have felt this kind of thrilling liberation as a result.
To find out more about the Forgiveness Project, go to theforgivenessproject.com. To join the Wonderspace community and share your own wonders and stories of hopefulness, or to listen to the previous 28 interviews, the website is ourwonder.space. I want to thank Marina for joining us on this Wonderspace, and I hope you can join us next week for more wonders and stories of hopefulness.